All right, Raiders, come on in. I'm making this video to show you the practice questions that we're going through for Unit 2A. In my absence, I still want you to see what we're going through. And I recognize that the board is going to be hard to see via this screen. So catch my words. I am going to try to write on it with this pen. This is what I call the Swanson method, right? And it is a deliberate approaching of each question. A flaw in students taking tests is, yeah, that's C, click, and moving on. And you might not have read the whole question. There might have been a tricky answer that the test writers were trying to fool you with, and maybe they succeeded because you only read half of the answer. You saw a word you thought you recognized, you clicked it. So I have a very slow and deliberate process. I know you can't take 5 minutes on every single question. Excuse me. I know you can't take 5 minutes on every single question, but you can follow this process when you get stuck, and it will help you. So these questions have been throughout your packet. You may have to flip around in your toolbox to find each question here. They are labeled pretty well. This is question 14, starting from the top. So you might not see me in the whole video, but I am going to be writing. Question is, step one is that I'm going to read the whole question. The question is that prior to his inauguration as President of the United States, George Washington often said, "I walk on untrodden ground," indicating that he understood what? George Washington, first president. That quote there to me sounds a whole lot like firsts or precedents. So I'm going to write down the word precedent on my page right here. I have not even looked at the options yet, but I have a pretty good starting point. I know I'm looking for something related to his precedence. Option A, very few people would ever serve in the same capacity. If he did it right, he would hope that a lot of people would serve in the same capacity. So I'm going to kill this answer for the same capacity phrasing. B, his time in office would shape the role of the presidency. That sounds a whole lot to me like a precedent. Now, here's my tip. You feel like it's the right answer. Don't just click B and move on. We are still going to read C and D because what if I was mistaken? What if there's a better option? What if I fell for the tricky option? So we are going to read C and D. Serving as president would require a great deal of work. While true, okay, we can agree that that's true. The statement, "I walk on untrodden ground," I don't think it's about the job requiring a great deal of work. I knocked my cup over. And D, he would need to acquire new territory for the country. Not something he did, not something he was focused on, not as the first president. New territory. I'm going to kill it. That phrase, new territory, that's just not it for me. So we do choose B. Shaping the role of the presidency is a precedent, and that is a big piece of his story. Question 15. What was not a precedent set by George Washington during his presidency? So I'm dealing with precedents again. Now, and I'm going to deliberately read each one. So A, the establishment of a cabinet within the executive branch. Ring-a-ding-ding, this stands out to me as a precedent he did do. So, students, sometimes we're going so fast, we see a correct answer, and we forget that the question said not. So the cabinet is a precedent, therefore, it's not the correct answer. B, the establishment of a 2-term limit for the presidency. He informally did step down after 2 terms. He did not have to, but he did, and that gives us a precedent. So that is a precedent, therefore I kill the option. The exercise of federal authority to override state laws. This is gives me a little pause. Federal authority, very specifically, does not override state laws. Anything that the federal government doesn't address is left to the states. That is the 10th Amendment. Therefore, he did not exercise federal authority to override state laws. It's this word right here that I don't like, override. And since we're looking for the not, I think C might be the correct answer, but I'm still going to look at D just to make sure. D, the exercise of authority to enforce the law. This is a very clear definition and clear reference to the Whiskey Rebellion. So he did exercise authority to enforce the law. That makes it a no. And in this case, C is the correct answer. A and B, you kill those ones real fast. C and D, the difference in the word override versus authority, override versus enforce. You have to do some thinking on that one. This one, if you kill A and B, by gosh, at least you have a 50-50 chance on C and D. That's what we're going for. That's what the Swanson method of answering questions is going for. All right, I'm going to close this. I'll try to move on. Hopefully my slides are all queued up. Look at that. All right, bring the pen back up. Man, working this board like it's the Minority Report. Love this one because there's a picture involved. Use the illustration of George Washington amassing troops in response to the Whiskey Rebellion to answer the question. So I've already kind of come through this thought process in the previous question. This gave the federal government to enforce federal law. I also think that Shays's kind of gave us the fall of the Articles of Confederation. On the other hand, the Whiskey Rebellion showed the strength of the Constitution. I'm jotting some things down to the side here. I have not even looked at the options yet. Hopefully that my thought process, I'm going to also see it in the options. Let's find out. So what important precedent did Washington's response to the rebellion set? As I look at each option, I already see the word precedent. So I know that each statement is a precedent. Each statement, here's where students get tripped up. They'll find a statement that is true. Option A, the precedent that the Constitution granted the executive authority to enforce federal laws. That's a true statement. Does it apply to the Whiskey Rebellion? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So in this case, I like A, but I'm not going to commit the mortal sin of choosing A and moving on. I am going to read the rest of it. B, the precedent that state laws should prevail when they come in conflict with federal laws. State laws prevail is a no. Federal law first, state law has to fall under that. So that is a no because it's written out of order. The precedent that the president may commit troops to combat without congressional approval. This one is where the test writers may be trying to trick you a little bit. Or in these early days, it was not about committing troops to combat. I would kill it because of that word right there. George Washington was not necessarily taking his troops to combat. He was trying to enforce the federal law. So the word combat, I know it's razor thin, but the word combat makes that one wrong right there. And finally, D, the precedent that the protection of natural rights outweighs natural security concerns. Hey, we love natural rights. John Locke, Thomas Jefferson. That's just not what this situation is about. So I'm going to kill D as well. I'm keeping A. The executive has authority to enforce federal laws. That was the whole point of the Whiskey Rebellion, is that George Washington and the Constitution did have the strength to enforce federal laws. It's not written in a question here, but the opposite of that is that Shays's rebellion revealed the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation. Therefore, we create the Constitution. We have George Washington. He marches his troops into Pennsylvania and enforces federal laws. All right, let me kill this one right here. Close. Move forward on my slides. Got 3 more questions in this little set here, okay? 3 more questions. 17, flip through your work packet as you need to. 17, what change in U.S. politics did the election of Andrew Jackson represent? So I'm thinking common man, spoils system. I might think about the Indians. I might think about nullification. I might think about how he gave federal authority. States could not nullify their laws. All of these things come to mind. I have not even looked at the options yet. So let's go ahead and do that now. The growing influence of common people. Well, anytime the word common it comes out, we are talking about Andrew Jackson. So test questions, EOC questions, refer to Andrew Jackson as the common man president. I like A because it says the growing influence of common people. Now, don't just grab the word common, because if it said the declining influence of common people, I would not like that option, because they were not declining, they were increasing. Let's move on. B, the growing influence of big business. No, I'm going to kill that, because Andrew Jackson actually took on the wealthy. And that phrase big business, actually, we haven't gotten there yet, but it implies the growth of businesses in the early 1900s. That's not the right option for this question. B is a no. C, growing opposition to manifest destiny, the idea that we're spreading to the West. Well, people aren't opposed to that. They're actually in favor of it. We want to spread out West. So there's not opposition to manifest destiny. There's support for manifest destiny. Therefore, that one single word, opposition, is going to make me kill that option. And finally, growing opposition to the spoils system. Well, Jackson actually creates the spoils system. People don't oppose it. They support it. They like the idea that they can get jobs for supporting a presidential candidate. So it's not the word opposition kills that option for me. Boom. It is A, the growing influence of common people. Question 8 listed here. So what two principles are often associated with Jacksonian democracy? Looking for 2 this time. Strengthening the office of the president. In my 2 days of lectures on Andrew Jackson, I don't know how many times I said that. That's a definite yes. Okay, I'm not even gonna, that's a yes. Strengthening the office of the president. Extending suffrage to all citizens. All right, here's a tricky one. One word, 3 letters is gonna kill it for me. It's the word all. Andrew Jackson increased suffrage to non-landowning white males, but not all. Okay, that word all kills the whole option there, so that's a no. Increasing public participation in politics. Well, it doesn't say the word common, but I can almost see it written into the written between the lines there. Common man. Public participation is basically common man participation. I like that. Let's keep on reading. Let's see if that's going to be our second choice. Increasing the power of Congress. No, he increased the power of the president. Limiting the power of state governments. Now, he did not deliberately limit the power of state governments. This is pretty close to a trick statement. You might be thinking nullification, but that's different than limiting the power of state governments. He increased the power of the federal government. That doesn't necessarily come at the expense of state government. So I will hear an argument for E, but the word limiting, that kills it for me. Nullification is different than limiting the power of state governments. Yes, he increased the public's participation in politics. A and C is what you should arrive at there. Last one, this one's pretty easy. Gives us another picture. I'm moving on. Pen. All right, the reason you're watching this video right now is because you have an exam tomorrow. So hopefully this process right here sets your brain up for how you should approach test questions. After we answer this question right here, you're going to be able to play Book It and do the study guide scavenger hunt. And you know what you need to study. You know what you need to do to get ready for the benchmark exam. So use your time wisely. Last question here. Use the map of the Trail of Tears to answer the question. So I'm thinking about Jackson. Oop, where'd my pen go? I'm thinking about Jackson. I'm thinking about Indian removal. I'm thinking about Georgia to Oklahoma. All right, I got a couple thoughts up front. Let's look now. So I started with look at the map, and then there's a second portion of the question. What contributed to the passage of the Indian Removal Act? I'm going to underline that. And the decision by the U.S. government to force the Cherokee, Choctaw, and other American Indian people to migrate along the routes shown. So heart of the question, what contributed to the passage of the Indian Removal Act? A, the expansion of executive authority under George Washington. GW, wasn't him. I kill that option. Drought conditions throughout the Great Plains region. This is a great question for at the end of the whole year. This question right here refers to the Great Depression, but you are going to be smart enough to know the Great Depression comes long after the Trail of Tears. So that is the wrong time frame. Going to kill that option. the continued westward expansion of the United States. I like that option. I'm thinking about we're acquiring more territory. There was gold on the land. The white man wanted that land. Let's kick the Indians off. We're moving farther to the west. We need their land. I like that option. Let's see what D is. D says rising tensions between the United States and Great Britain. Tensions were rising between white settlers and Native Americans, but not between the United States and Great Britain. So I can kill that option. And I'm left with C. It is the only logical one. It is the true one. It is the correct answer. So there you have it. The 15-minute crash course on how to answer some of these questions. The questions you saw today, they're not test questions tomorrow, but they're right along the lines of what you might see on the exam. So hope you paid attention. You can go backwards if you need to. Email me if you have any questions. Work on your study guide scavenger hunt. You study for you. You know what you need to study. And tomorrow you're going to show me what you know. I've missed being with you. I hope you've missed having me with you. And either way, like it or not, I'm coming back shortly after this exam, and I'll be excited to see you. All right, Mr. Swanson, signing off. See you when I see you.